You were kind enough to send me a cut of this last month. This is such a wonderful special.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked
it is you. It is some other adult guest stars, like people like Richard Kind and Natasha and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
But mostly it's kids.
Oh, yeah, it's me and 15 kids ages 8 to 13.
And why did you have this idea to work with children?
I thought it'd be funny, and I needed something to do. And Merica Sawyer, who you know very well,
a fantastic writer,
amazing comedy writer who I worked with at Saturday Night Live a lot. We always wanted to write for kids. We wanted them to add kids to the cast of SNL at one point and have like a little update that they would cut to. So they go from Seth and Amy to 2 kids, remember? And Lauren was like, we're not doing that. So we had this idea, and then I just started thinking about writing kids talking like me. And I thought, that's great. So there's some of that, and then there's big musical numbers, you know, keep people entertained. And then we also interviewed them a lot on camera.
That is, I mean, the songs are fantastic, and I'm not the least bit surprised by that. But one of the parts that really resonates is the kids talk directly to camera. You hear your voice, you hear Rhys Thomas, the wonderful director, America's voice. And a lot of what they talk about is the things they're afraid of.
Yes, we asked them what their biggest fears were. And
were you surprised by their answers?
Yeah, because, do you know, like, I thought, like, it's 2019. I was born in 1982. So, you know, like, when I was 7, everyone was afraid of, like, tarantulas, you know?
Yeah.
And I wonder what kids in 2019 are afraid of. And, like, you can speculate from the news and everything. And a lot of kids are still afraid of tarantulas. And I don't know why. Like, they're really not a thing you come into contact with.
Yeah, but certainly not in New York City. I want to point out, this is everybody at the premiere.
Oh, yes.
Which is fantastic. They all dressed up. And when I first met you,
they demanded that it be black tie. We were on set one day in July, and they went, is there going to be a premiere? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, with a red carpet? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, and everyone dresses fancy? And I was like, all right, yeah.
I like this because I feel like when I first met you, you sometimes looked like a kid who was dressed up like an adult.
Yes.
And it's fun to see you with that, what that actually looks like.
Yes, this was me on an average show night, yeah.
What was it like auditioning them?
Oh, well, it was we, you know, started off like 50 or 60 kids, and we would have they'd come in and do a song, sometimes a kid you could tell, like, oh, she might be good at this type of energy. So sometimes we'd assign them a song. So this very talented young girl, Lexi, we told her to do You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette. And we told her parents, you know, could you ever prepare You Ought to Know? And she came in and she said, I have You Ought to Know to sing by Alanis Morissette. And we were like, great. And she's like, but just the appropriate parts? And I was, I was like, what? And she's like, just the appropriate parts? And I was like, oh, yeah, don't, yeah.
You forgot.
I forgot the whole point of the song. Then we'd talk to them, like, just kind of loosely interview style. I gave them, I had a couple of questions, and then there was one round of kids where I'd say, fill in the blank. America has a lot of blank. And so I'd say, America has a lot of, and some kids said, like, hamburgers. And some kids would choke and be like, and some kids would say people. And this kid, Alex Bello, who's very talented, who's in the special, I said, America has a lot of, and he said, work to do.
You talked, I think it was your last special, about how you don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
And
you have any?
I know a couple, yeah. Sometimes I do. Most of the time I'm happy. Sometimes I wish I'd talked to you. But
yeah. Well, you have more free time. You know?
Yeah. You talked to them about it, though. I mean, they must have been curious.
One time on set, we were holding for a while, and they said to me, "So you don't want kids?" And I said, "No, I don't." And then we had a conversation about it as if they weren't kids. They were like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Well, my wife and I really enjoy our time together, and I like having my free time to do stuff, and you know, I think kids are great, but I wouldn't want anything to come between that." And they were like, "No, that makes sense." And they were talking it out. This one girl went, "You might like kids." And I was like, "Maybe." And she went, "Nah." And then we were all doing a shot the next day, and my wife, Anna, came by set, and she walked in, and I went, "That's my wife, everybody." And everyone went, "Hi, Mrs. Mulaney." And then this little girl, not a little girl, a wonderful girl, Camille turned to me and said, "Does your wife know you don't want kids?"